Hello, welcome to Have a Tea with me. My name is Chris. This is the Lesson Jigsaw channel, and we are here for English language conversation. So if you like to practice your speaking skills or your conversation skills, we are here for you. We are here every day, Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time. All you need to do is to click on the link that you will see in the chat. That's on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're on Twitter, if you see us on Twitter, you would need to go to one of the other three to find that link. But certainly, if you click on that link, you can come on through to the studio and have a chat with us about whatever you prefer. If you prefer just having a bit of chit chat, a bit of random conversation, just about what's happening in life and that sort of thing, absolutely you can do that. If there's a particular topic or issue that you need to practice or that is coming up in your life, we can certainly practice that as well. Maybe there is some words or vocabulary that you've recently learned or you need to practice for whatever reason. We can certainly look at practicing that as well. If there's something in the news, something topical you like to talk about, again, we can talk about that as well. So all you need to do is to click on the link, come on through to the studio, and that's it. And then we can talk. If you're watching this on the replay, hello. You may be thinking 12 o'clock Universal Time is not a great time for me to have a chat because I'm working or sleeping or doing whatever different things. Certainly send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com, and let us know where you are in the world, what time zone you're in, and some preferred days and times in general that you would like to speak, and we can see if we can arrange a live stream for that time or one of those times that's good for you and me, and we can take it from there, as we say. So yes, how are you today? Tell me, how are you today? What's happening in your world? In most places of the world, when this is being live streamed, it is Tuesday, 26th of April 2022. So almost these months are flying by, aren't they? They're flying by. So this is almost a third of the year gone already. A third of the year. Amazing. That tea is almost, it's borderline perfect temperature, but not quite. Borderline. It's borderline. So it's like just on the edge, like the border of a country or a property or something like that. So it's borderline, just on the edge of being perfect, but not quite there yet. Okay, so while I'm here by myself, we're just going to talk about different things and different things we can use for inspiration to talk and to create conversation and talk about things. We're going to also use, in this case, we're going to use, in one of the shows we did yesterday, we started to use this web page. So it's a web page called The Conversation. What it appears to be is that you can get different editions. So you can probably see this here in the sort of the top left corner. But there's I've clicked on the New Zealand edition, but you can get different ones for Africa, Australia, Canada, Spain, France, a global edition, Indonesia, UK, and US. So I assume there's, I'm not sure if the African edition is in English or in another language. I haven't checked actually. But the Canadian seems to have two editions. The French, I'm going to assume, is in French. The Spanish edition in Spanish, and the Indonesian edition in Indonesian. I would guess. But yes, so it could be a a nice way of getting an insight into what people are looking at in different days, different places in the world, and to look what's important for them on different days. And so we can see with this New Zealand edition, they've got a mix of local and international straight away. So of course they're talking about the war in Ukraine and what's happening in Ukraine. Pushing the doomsday clock hands closer to midnight is one of the the top story. If we go top left, being the prime position. So the doomsday clock. So in theory, isn't the doomsday clock when the clock hits midnight is that nuclear war or just World War III? But something along those lines. Maybe it's World War III. And I guess the idea is if it's World War III, that's probably the last World War. Is the general idea. Then they're talking about, I think this is related to COVID. They talk about stricter conditions. So I'm going to guess it's COVID, but maybe it's not. They're in no hurry to reopen the border to cruise ships. So I guess cruise ships are not welcome in New Zealand at the moment. Talking about White Island as well, and some of the impact of the pandemic, and things along those lines, and different leave that people can take. And it seems to be written with a lot of university writers or people at university. I'm not sure if they are just people studying or people, for example, being learning journalism at university, or if they're professors. I'm not sure. But of course, that's something that can be looked into pretty quickly, I guess. This is a interesting headline. So fewer than 1% of New Zealand men take paid parental leave, would offering them more to stay at home help? It's an interesting thing. Is that a common thing in your country? Let me know. Let me know in the comments or in the chat. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I guess there's always maternity leave. We often think about maternity leave when a woman is having a baby, but we don't think about paternity leave. But that's, I guess, exactly during the birth. But parental leave is just, I guess, throughout. I'm assuming parental leave in if it's available in a country, it can be taken until the child is an adult, which I'm assuming in general terms is 18. Different, of course, for airlines and hotels and that sort of thing. But I assume that's the case. So when they turn 18. So yes, okay, and they've got a combination here, or they've linked it because so this author is a professor of law. There we go. So they're professors. Okay, so the revelation that I think this is for retirement savings or superannuation. I'm not sure how the scheme works in New Zealand. So, but women's superannuation or women's retirement savings are 20% behind men's. So, possibly a reflection on the fact that they are not working. Well, I guess two things. Maybe not working as much if they have a baby and that sort of thing. So they lose out in that aspect potentially, or they take perhaps maternity leave and then perhaps extra leave without pay. Could be an option, something like that. But then also, I assume the larger problem is the difference in pay between men and women. Okay, so the gap in retirement savings reflects the gender pay gap overall. Okay, So many women who do the same work as men are comparatively underpaid, meaning they have less money to save for their retirement. It's interesting. I don't know if it's mainly of course perhaps this article goes into it. I'm not sure, or there are probably other articles to see if it's more a reflection of the private service or the private sector or public sector. I imagine it's more the private sector with that, because I imagine with the public sector you have a standard rate. Normally they have like different grades or levels for pay that are pretty fixed. I don't think there's sort of much room to move in most areas of the public service. Perhaps in the private service, I'm not sure if it's about salary negotiation or if it's just in terms of how much is being offered, and that sort of thing. Okay, so COVID worsened the pay and savings gender gap. So the government's direct financial assistance favored male-dominated sectors like construction rather than female-dominated low-wage sectors like hospitality. I wonder if that was the same around the world, around you are. I think unfortunately, that's probably true, isn't it? That's probably true. I wonder if that was a consideration when that was being made, when different decisions were being made. If it was a conscious decision or if it's just something that happened to be because perhaps they thought different sectors needed more support for different reasons, or they take a longer time to start back up again, whereas perhaps the consideration is if it's something like in the hospitality sector, it might only take a few days or so to really start being back at normal sort of thing, or normal sort of pace in terms of stock and people working and being open and functioning. Whereas with construction, possibly it takes a longer lead up time, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good enough reason to support one sector more than another, unless perhaps the lead up time is like markedly different. So the lead up time might be markedly. I guess I should show you that while I'm typing, otherwise you can't see that. So the lead-up time might be markedly different, so significantly different between the two sectors. Maybe it could be like a few days to weeks or months, but I don't know. This is me just speculating. I don't know. So on top of this, a COVID baby boom we'll likely see, so chances are, we'll likely see old trends reinforced with more women than men taking time out of the paid workforce. Is there a baby boom in your country? I imagine in most countries, wherever there was lockdown for a significant amount of time, there would be a baby boom. Okay, and they say in turn, this is a good little thing to use to combine ideas. So if you're talking about the following consequence or what happens next, so we often talk about then or next, but this is very nice. In turn. So perhaps not directly, like immediately after, but as a consequence later. So here we can see, in turn, this will see them disadvantaged when they retire, perpetuating the cycle, continuing the cycle, making it keep going more and more and more. This is a very nice article to read. So okay. But yes, interesting. So it says yes. Okay, yes. New Zealand's statutory parental leave scheme mitigates some of the immediate financial burden of childbearing and child rearing. So to have and raise a child. So to rear and to bear. So bearing is the initial stage, let's say, and then rearing is later when you're helping the child grow, feeding them, educating them, all that sort of stuff. Okay, this is some very nice expressions. I quite like this. If you're looking for a place where they have some nice ways of bridging information and presenting information, and sometimes it's not necessarily just looking at the actual content. So you've got the main focus of the article in terms of pay and parental leave and that sort of thing, but just the way that it's structured. So let's say just the general language, the organizational language for the article, it's quite nice to follow those sorts of things. So certainly if you need to write in English, sometimes articles are very good to find the structure and the bridging words, and you go to different articles, you can find different words to link ideas, link and contrast and whatever it may be. So it appears, this is quite nice, it appears, this is the impression. So it appears to promote gender equality. So that's like, this perfect expressioning on the face of it. So when you just look at it, in theory, this is what it does. But I assume there's going to be some sort of analysis later that says, oh, okay, but it's really the opposite. So the appearance is one thing, the facade perhaps shows one thing, but in reality is different. So it's given us two clues. It's reinforced the idea here. It's got it appears, and then we said on the face of it. So it's really promoting that idea. Since, very nice language, so since, and this is explaining the reason. So it appears to promote gender equality. How does it show that, or why is the person saying that? Well, this is since. It's presenting the idea of since either parent can be the primary carer and thus, or therefore, be entitled to parental leave. So basically, either the man or the woman, if the couple is male and female, so either person can take the parental leave. Or I guess in other relationships, it's either person as well. Also, so there we go, more information. One parent can transfer their leave and pay entitlements to the other. So we don't know the reality yet. So, but on the face of it, as the writer describes, it looks like a very fair system, or a good, well-organized system. So then if one person wants to stay looking after the kid or kids, whatever the case may be, they can transfer. So it's seen as a team effort, I guess. So that's very nice. But here we have the however, and so I guess we were waiting. We're waiting for the but, as we say. It's like when someone says something really nice, we wait for the but, and that sort of thing. So the statutory leave payments are capped. So a cap is like a limit. You also have like a cap if you have like a bottle. Say if you got a bottle of soft drink or a bottle of water, there is a cap normally to stop the water coming out. If you turn it upside down, the water's not falling out because you normally screw on the cap. So to screw on the cap, I'm going to say. To screw on the cap. I'd say at the top of the bottle. The bottom, no, top of the bottle. So you screw on the cap, and so yeah, a cap is like a type of lid of sorts, but normally it's more secure than just a lid. Normally, like a lid with a pot you just put on, but if you screw on a cap, and a cap is also, I guess, something you can wear, like a hat, but it's the idea of a limit. And it doesn't go past that point. And that's the same thing here. If something is capped, and often when we talk about payments, entitlements, any sort of support or assistance, normally there's a cap. So there is a limit to how much one person or one company or one organization, whatever it may be, can receive or apply for, get, all those sorts of things. So here the cap is in New Zealand dollars, 621 New Zealand dollars per week. I don't know how much that is in other currencies, but I guess you can work that out. And they're saying this is less than the weekly minimum wage. Okay, but I suppose if they get the payment for two people, if they transfer it over, but I suppose they can't get two payments at once, I guess is perhaps the problem. They can only get one payment and then another payment. And while a partner is entitled to up to 2 weeks of leave, this leave is unpaid. Okay. Oh, okay. So here, when it says they can transfer their leave and pay entitlements, so the actual pay that they're talking about is under the minimum wage, and the leave is unpaid. So that's the trick, if you like. That's the thing that doesn't work well. Okay. So that's interesting. So if you want to look at the rest of the article, it's on the Conversation website, but the New Zealand edition, or I assume it's only going to be on the New Zealand edition. This is a nice combination that you'll see: stay-at-home dads or stay-at-home mums. So for the ones that didn't return to work. This is interesting. So Sweden introduced paid parental leave in 1974. Okay. Okay. Well, that's it, but that's okay. Then the second half there. So, but the number of fathers taking leave only jumped significantly when non-transferable paid leave was introduced 21 years later in 1995. So they said, so maybe you can transfer it, and so the fathers kept working and the mothers didn't return to work. But when they said no, you can't transfer it, then the men started to take time off and started to stay at home. And I guess now, anyway, that the way that happens could change a lot anyway. Because people working remotely and working from home may give more opportunities. And when people do have to go back to the office, I don't know, I imagine in a lot of places it's going to be split. So it's like you have some days where you're at home and some days where you're at work. And perhaps with couples, they can see if they can arrange that time. So for example, one person Monday, Tuesday in the office, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at home, and the other partner is, at home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and in the office Thursday, Friday, for example. So that could be an option. That could change the way kids are raised. It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to see if we look at, when we talk about the climate, how the climate is, and they try to have the goals for 2050. If we look at how the world is, and how the people who've entered the workforce in the previous 10 years or so, when we get to 2050, we see how those people are, because those people may well be a product of a generation of mixing or having a lot more remote working, and having more time with their parents present compared to before, where people would have to travel to work, stay at work, travel home, and that sort of thing. So it might be interesting to see if we talk around like 2050, and we see if there's any difference in terms of the way children are, younger adults are, in terms of things like just mental health and how they are in general. If they're more, I don't know what we'd measure it by. Maybe if they're more responsible, adaptable, more resilient, different types of attributes to the character. Perhaps if there's more stability with relationships, if they have more of the mother and father figure, for example, in the home, what sort of impact that has, if that's happens to more people. But of course, on the flip side, so talking about the other argument, so on the flip side, it could also be that if people are together more often, there might be more tension. So it might cause more issues. So at the end of the day, it may sort of balance itself out. So so whatever the situation is now, people perhaps separate just for different reasons, because maybe they see each other more and that sort of thing. But it's a curious thing, something to watch out for. Let's put that in our notebooks to check in 2050. So in 28 years, we can see what the stats are. But I think it's more of if you can't measure it with statistics necessarily, it's perhaps more of like some things you can, but the other ones are more of a feeling and an instinct, and just what you see, like if you're like in a workplace, or when you're dealing with people, and like obviously dealing with lots of different people. As I say, like the people who are starting to work in their first 10 years or so in the workforce, how they are, how settled they are. If it's sort of like the trend is now to be moving from job to job until they get the satisfaction that they want. Now, one thing, what's good here, I haven't actually checked these, but what is a good thing to do as well, if you're looking at practicing and developing your English skills even further, is if you do find a new site or any sort of site like a blog or whatever, if you do find a site where it has comments, to check out the comments and even participate if you like. I'm not sure, like if you need to register and that sort of thing. If it's best to be, I guess, public with who you are, because you don't know what people are like, I guess. But and there's always a possibility of trolls and people just trying to be aggressive or rude for the sake of it. For the sake of it, for the sake of something. To be rude or troll for the sake of it. Just because they can do it. Yeah? Not for any other particular reason, but just because they do it for the sake of it. And that could be for anything. You do something for the sake of it. I think I've spelled sake right. That would be my natural instinct to spell it that way. But there's no little squiggly line, so I'm assuming that's correct. But yeah, so it can be good to look at comments and look what other people think, because sometimes they can be written well. Sometimes comments can be large or like long or short, and that sort of thing. So, and so you can get some interesting insights into what people are thinking, but also how they present the information. So if we're looking at it from an English perspective, you can see how different people write. And a lot of the times, of course, when people write comments, it's going to be quite informal and that sort of thing. So perhaps the style of some articles or opinion pieces might be very formal, but the comments that the general public write could be informal. So here you have different people writing their comments, that sort of thing. So that can be quite a good thing to review. Not necessarily say something is the best or not, or to agree or disagree with the opinion, but certainly you can do that as well. But just to see what other people are writing and how they are expressing that. And then, as we say, for English language practice, to then go and participate. And perhaps you have the choice. You can perhaps just write it for yourself and don't publish it. But the main thing is that you're writing and you're trying to write your opinion and seeing how you write it. So what you could do is write it on one day, whatever your opinion is, what you think about the situation or your response to a situation or what someone else's opinion is. Write it, let it sit, go away for a couple of days or a week or something, and then come back and have a look. You can, I guess, check to see if you still agree with the opinion that you wrote, firstly, but then also check the way that you wrote it and see if you still think that was the best way to write it, if you would change the way you wrote it, if you perhaps give a different example, because quite commonly it's better to give examples whenever we're giving a point of view. You know, it sort of expresses more detail and gives a clearer picture for people when we give an example. So say for example, Stephen here, who logged in via Google, but he said, super is a major problem in Australia for women. So super meaning superannuation. So that's when we're talking about the retirement funds for someone when they retire. So superannuation. So super is a major problem in Australia for women, mainly because our divorce system is based on the rule of lawyers, not the rule of law. Okay. If you cannot afford, if you cannot afford to clog up the courts with mindless litigation, females frequently get zero. So women get nothing if there's a divorce. And to clog up, so to clog up something is like to block in a way. So for example, you may have a sink in the kitchen, and if you're washing something, say with food in it, the food could clog up the drain and the water can't get through and you have to clear it up. So in this case, it's clogging up the courts. And with however the courts are working, you can perhaps question things, or you can, want to introduce, more information, and there are delays and whatever. So it says, okay, we come back in a month or 3 months, and it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. or just asking lots and lots of questions, and extending the length of the case so that the cost is greater. And so when females frequently get 0, that could either be a reflection of the result of how much money, I guess, is decided to be split during the divorce, or it could also reflect the cost of the lawyer, which may be what the person means here with the rule of lawyers. So yes. And then they go into an example about using a scheme in New Zealand with the minimum payment of super and other assets between men and women. So 50% to women, 40% to men. And this is, I don't know if this is in relation to the divorce settlement or something else, but anyway, in 19 out of 20 cases, okay, this is the good sort of the good balance. So, but it seems that Labour and the Liberal National Party is the LNP. This is the two main political groups in Australia. Both opposed it due to the power of female lawyers. I don't know, that's an opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but I wonder if we can learn something from across the Dutch. I think perhaps it's across the ditch, which is, okay. Perhaps what that is the pronunciation, where commonly when New Zealanders speak, when they say an I, it sounds like a U, but we call the water between Australia and New Zealand the ditch with an I, but for pronunciation be the Dutch. Because of that, so it's like a little joke in there as well. So that could be, I guess in some ways that can be quite tricky to understand, that little bit at the end there, because I guess you would need to know what the situation is there. It's probably a very local type of idea to understand that joke. But if you do get to understand it, I guess that makes the feeling of English or learning English a little bit better and that sort of thing. So yes, so that's certainly an article if you'd like to explore more. That could be worth it. If you're again looking at practicing and developing English, what you can do is to get the article, highlight some information or get some information, and think of that as the answer for something, and then prepare questions. So ask questions or write questions. So whatever that answer is that you have selected is the source for creating the question. And then you use the question words again. Yeah, so then you're practicing giving answers, could be both positive and negative, and you're also practicing writing questions, asking questions, giving comments, giving opinions, and that sort of thing. So when you use an article or a text in English, it can potentially give you a lot of benefit for practice in English. And of course, if you want to practice speaking as well, you can, if you only have yourself to speak to, you can of course use a voice recorder in your phone, and you can sort of explain your feelings or opinion, or give a summary of the article. And similar to what we were saying about giving a comment, you can record that summary or opinion and then come back a few days later and just listen to it and see if the way you expressed it, you're happy with it, or if you would change it and that sort of thing. Or of course you can share it with people you know, in terms of the article or the story or the idea, and have a chat with them, have a conversation with them about what you think is appropriate or not in terms of the story, your opinion, and that sort of thing. And that also then gives you a chance to practice using some of the vocabulary and expressions, linking words and expressions that you've seen in the story. Okay, so we're going to leave it there, I think, for today. A reminder, this is Have a Tea with Me. This is an open English language conversation and speaking practice session on the Lesson Jigsaw channel. We're here every day, Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time. So when the live stream is on, you will see a link in the chat. All you need to do is click on that link, and you can come on through and chat with us live here to practice. I will present some different topics and information, but we can talk about anything if you have a preference to practice or talk about different topics. So that's available to you. Don't forget, you can also write to us. Our email is chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. You can always send us an email. Let us know where you are in the world, and if there's a particular day or time that you prefer to do practice and have a live stream, we can certainly organize that as well. So that's open to you. But for today, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for subscribing, liking, following, all that sort of stuff. And we will see you next time. Have a pleasant rest of the day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Take care.